Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday morning, and I am drinking my coffee and reading through my emails and noticed that I had some questions about the persuasive speech assignment. And I wanted to provide you with a few more options for how you construct your outline for that, and then show you just a rough skeleton of what an argument might look like, and also talk about how you're going to incorporate citations into your speech. So, first things first, you have a couple additional options as far as how you format your outline for this next speech. The last two speeches that you've written, formal speech 1 and formal speech 2, I've encouraged you, strongly recommended you to use the formal outline template that I provided on Blackboard. That just allows me and you to see that you have all the components of your speech that are required. So you have a full and complete introduction, you have main body points with transitions, and then you move to the conclusion. The additional options for this speech are two that are very handy for working with persuasive rhetoric. The first one is the Monroe's Motivated template. And so if you are in the speech 3 folder under assignments for speech 3, you will see the Monroe's Motivational Outline template. I already have that one open in a tab, so I just wanted to briefly show you. This particular outline format gives you 5 distinct steps to construct a persuasive argument. It starts with arousal, and arousal is basically the same thing as attention getting. Help us understand, help us get engaged in this particular topic. It moves on to step 2, which is to dissatisfy your audience. Now that sounds funny in that we're going to get their attention and then we're going to frustrate them. But part of this is to help them understand the problem so that they can continue to care more deeply about it. And you will follow that up with gratifying them, which means that you are providing a solution to that dissatisfaction. So your proposal, your argument is to help alleviate this dissatisfaction that they might have felt from the step 2. You move on after you have told them how you're going to get rid of their dissatisfaction, what your proposal to the problem is, to help them visualize what happens in the world where people adopt your argument. So if you are arguing for a specific point of view, you're helping to paint a picture for them to see that if we do what I'm arguing for or against, this is what the world will look like, and it will be a better world. And then your conclusion, your point 5, is to ask the audience to do something. So you are asking them to vote or to buy something or to consider something differently. So this is the movement step. This is their action cue. So Monroe's motivational sequence has 5 distinct steps that you would use in order to build your argument. That is option number 2. For the third option, you have a template that is called the problem solution pattern. And as the name implies, it is addressing a problem and providing a solution. This is a very common persuasive technique used by politicians and marketers in order to simplify the persuasive process. So you spend half of your speech essentially talking about why something is a problem. You give statistics, you give evidence, you give expert testimony, and then the second part of your speech is spent providing the solution. So here is what we propose to do. Here is why my point of view is going to fix those problems. And here's why I am maybe better than the opposition, or here's why my solution is superior. So that often does involve, again, statistics, evidence, helping to provide concrete evidence that your solution is feasible. So a little bit more simplified than the Monroe's motivational, and probably what I would call the example that I'm going to show you. When I was thinking about this last night, my brain woke me up at about 4:30, and I started dreaming about screencast-o-matic and PowerPoints and podcasts. And I started to think, well, maybe if I could compose a solution for you, I might choose something like Election Day should be a national holiday. And this is a sample topic that I use to discuss in my face-to-face classes. And so I asked students to take a stance for or against that proposition. And so I chose for this example to propose that we adopt a national holiday for Election Day. So, as you know, Election Day is traditionally held in November on a Tuesday, and that's left over from agrarian days when we needed to give farmers the time to get to the polling stations. And November was a little bit quieter time of the year. And so that's just a kind of leftover practice that maybe seems a little outdated in today's world. So, we could, as a solution to increasing voter turnout for elections, we could consider making Election Day a national holiday. Other propositions for increasing voter turnout include things like moving it to a weekend, allowing more same day registration, and allowing more people to do voting ahead of time. So you don't have to be present to vote. There are other options that include online voting, though from all the reports that I've heard, we're not ready as a nation to get there, mostly for security reasons. So I would propose in this persuasive topic that we should enact a national holiday. So if we continue to keep Election Day as that Tuesday in November, that we should make that a federal holiday. And my point one would be that ensuring that more people have the time off to vote would give more people the chance to vote and allow more people to have a voice in the democracy. And so it ensures more participation in a democracy. And then I would begin to cite statistics from brief research that I did. So I looked up some information about voter turnout from the 2014-2016 elections. And in the case of this particular topic, I'd want more current data. I'd want to stick with the last 5 to 10 years of voter turnout and not go all the way back, because that is more relevant to the argument that I'm making today. I went to a Bernie Sanders website where he had proposed a Democracy Day. He called it for National Election Day. And he noted that up to 80% of younger and more low-income voters don't end up voting. So if we were given a national holiday, perhaps we would be able to increase voter participation. And then my second point deals with the fact that we do offer in many states time off for voting, but it's going to vary very much by state. So in Wisconsin, you're guaranteed an hour off. In other states, you're guaranteed 2 hours off, and maybe others you're not guaranteed much time at all, or some companies or corporations elect to give their employees the day off. It's completely up to the employer. So if we had a more across the board standardized, we all get this day off, maybe we could increase our participation rates in our elections. The counter argument would be why someone would not agree with me that we should make the Election Day a national holiday. And when I started to do some research on that, I found a Slate article that says, it sounds good in theory, but as with most other federal holidays like Easter or the 4th of July or Labor Day, we end up having most of the white-collar jobs are closed. So educational institutions, corporations, they take the day off. So white-collar workers have that day off. However, we know that most retailers, most restaurants, most health facilities do not take those days off. You still need people to make food, to care for people in hospitals. So it's inadvertently and unfairly privileging people who already are in a more privileged position anyway to have more time off. So is that a feasible solution? Which made me think about my argument a little bit differently. And if I were to construct this as my persuasive topic, I might consider instead of having the day off, I might consider expanding the voting options. So I would need to address the fact that not everybody's going to agree with me on my position, and that these are the reasons why. I also wanted to address the fact that I don't want to propose we make voting mandatory or compulsory, which is something that Australia does. If you don't vote, you get a $20 fine, because in my mind, enforcing that kind of democracy is counter to democracy. So you can't force somebody to do something just because you think it's a good idea. So I want to address the fact that there might be consequences or repercussions for having a federal holiday, and it wouldn't automatically fix our voting problems. And there is no guarantee that just because people have a day off that they're going to go out and vote. We have Memorial Day and people have the day off, but not everybody goes and pays tribute to the fallen. So we can't enforce those things. And can we prove that there's a link between a federal holiday and increased participation? So I would need to do a little bit more research on, is the voting rate higher, I should say, in those countries that do make Election Day a holiday? And you'll see from the quote there in the middle of the page, not necessarily. So again, based on the research I've done, I might need to change my stance a little bit. And that's something that I fully expect you to be confronted with when you do research for things like this. You might go into a topic feeling pretty strongly about it, but as you do more research, you might find like, oh, well, maybe I was wrong and I need to change my stance completely, or I need to alter the way I present this information. Totally fine. All right, so that's just a very rough outline. This is not a complete outline. This is just me thinking through something this morning briefly to give you an example. As I start to collect information to help support my argument, so you see here I have parentheticals that are telling me where this information is coming from, I would need to tell my audience members that in order to help build my credibility. Now, a lot of you are already doing this in your speeches. You're saying, according to the book, blah, 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 by so-and-so, he says, she says, etc. Those are fantastic things to do. Anytime you can cite an outside source who is credible, it helps build up your ethos or your credibility. And part of the requirement for speech 3 is that you start to cite these sources verbally. So that's one part of citing. The other part of citing is that you have to provide me, your instructor, the full citation of the source that you're using. So that means you have to provide me more than just your website address where you get information, or the name of a book. You have to provide me the full citation. Because we're in a communications course, I'm asking that you format those in MLA, which is Modern Language Association formatting. It's the formatting style that we use for humanities and communications-based courses. Now, if you are in a health or science-based course, you might be used to APA, but I'm asking that you format for this class in MLA. One website that I recommend in all my classes is the OWL Purdue. OWL stands for Online Writing Lab, and it is from Purdue University in Indiana. And they have a really fantastic updated website that walks you through what citations will look like. So I have done a Google search for OWL Purdue MLA, and I got this page, and you will see here on the left-hand side of the page that it walks you through what basic citations would look like. So let's say I found a web article that I wanted to cite in my persuasive speech. I would go to MLA Works Cited, electronic sources, so anything I find online or electronically, and then I scroll down and I start to see that there are samples of how to cite an entire website, how to cite a page on a website, an image, an article, an email, a listserv, a tweet, a YouTube video, etc. So find the one that is most applicable. So let's say I find an article in an online scholarly journal. I then go through and see, okay, I have to put the author's name, the title of the article, the title of the journal, the volume and issue number, and when I accessed it. So this is a nice overview of how to do those citations. I know several of you are already familiar with how to do this. This is just a refresher for you. If it's been a while since you've done it, this is a fantastic website to use. One more thing I wanted to share with you, which you have to do a little digging for in your MindTap online text, but if you go to MindTap, so I'm going to go to assignments, click our MindTap course link at the top here. It's going to open up MindTap for me. And you will see on the right-hand side, and I'm hoping I can do this since I have a couple different things open and some of them are hard to get to. So on the right-hand side, you have all these icons. So you have the outline builder, you have the full book, etc. If you go to the bottom of this icon list and click more, go to the very top and you should see an icon that has a little eye with a red circle around it. This is called Questia. This is a newer feature of the Cengage online text, which I think is a really nice feature that's built in. So you might be asked to do research in other courses. If you've taken a writing course through Western, you are asked sometimes to do um, scholarly research or database research or peer-reviewed research. Now, Questia is a built-in database that you have access to because you have access to the MindTap text. So by clicking that little white eye icon with the red circle around it, you're going to pop up this Questia database. And as you would in Western's databases or a library catalog, you're going to search the library. So let's say I want to do a search for Election Day holiday. And I do a search here, and I end up getting 6,908 results on that particular set of words. And the default on these tabs is books, academic journals, magazines, newspapers, encyclopedia. So let's say I wanted to do scholarly research on this topic. I'm going to click the academic journals because academic journals stands for scholarly research, scholarly journals that have been peer-reviewed by people in the field, experts in the field. And I start to scroll through and look at possible topics, possible titles that would be relevant to the topic that I am doing my persuasive speech on. And as I see these, I start to notice, okay, not sure if any of these are what I'm looking for. So I go up here, I'm going to do a search for magazines. So fighting turnout burnout, why Europeans turn out at higher rates and how to improve American participation. This is an article from the American Prospect from 2004. This could be something that can help me do a comparison to what we do in the US versus what other countries do. So I can do a read now, and I can click this and it will pull up this article. And the nice thing about this Questia database that is housed in MindTap is I can save all of the things that I like. So if I save this to an active project, it's going to notice up here, put it a little icon that says +1. So it's saving in a default project. And if I find something that I like, let's say I want to use some of this information in my speech. What you do in here is you click here and you click at the end of this, and you notice that it gets highlighted. And then I can choose if I want to highlight it in a specific color, but I can also cite this passage. So let's say I want to cite this. I want to use this direct passage in my persuasive speech. So I click cite this passage. It pops up this window. It's defaulted to MLA 8, which is what I want. That's the most recent addition to MLA. And it does the quotation marks for me, and it does the in-text citation for me, which is fantastic. So I clicked save. This also goes to my default projects folder, and I am able to keep reading this particular article. If I want to go to my default project, I go here and I see that I have information that's already saved. I had done some searching in a previous class, so some of these other titles you're seeing are not relevant to the National Election Day holiday, but it is keeping track of everything that I save. And I can then go create bibliography, and it will automatically start to create a I have to highlight what I want it to cite. So I'm just going to do this first one since that was the one that's relevant to this particular topic. So I click that. I'm only going to cite the Europeans turn out at a higher rate. I'm going to click create bibliography. Again, pop-up window. It's defaulted to MLA 8, which I want. I click create there. And here's the citation I would use in my bibliography at the bottom of my outline. There's also the option to export to this to MS Word, and you can copy paste that. So this is a really nice feature that is already housed within your MindTap text, your MindTap online sources. So if you want to go beyond just doing a Google search and get your hands into a database that is going to give you access to academic articles, books, things of that nature use this. This is in addition to the databases that you already have access to through Western, which you go through Western's website databases, and then you can get to BadgerLink, EBSCOhost, Culturegrams, SIRS, LexisNexis, Opposing Viewpoints, all of those good, solid databases that we have access to. So I wanted to show you that feature and let you know how to access it and how to use it, because that's something that I've just recently been playing around with and found it pretty intuitive and pretty easy to use, and makes citing a whole lot easier. So that is an overview of 2 additional outline format templates you can use for your persuasive speech. It's an overview of, this is again, rough sketch of me thinking through a topic. This is not my finished outline. I would need to do a lot more work, obviously, but I wanted to give you an example of what reasons might look like, what a counter argument might look like. Now, the counter argument, again, is not necessarily my point of view. It's what other people who are opposed to my point of view might say. I also walked you through how to find citation information through the OWL Purdue. In Blackboard, I have a couple other links to other websites that might be helpful. I know some of you might be using websites like NightSite or EasyBib. Those are fine, just they are only as good as the information that you tell it. So use those with a little bit more caution. And then that information on getting to the Questia area of MindTap. So Questia being your database and the really nice citation tools that are built into that. I hope that helped. If you have any questions beyond this about this assignment or any others, please do let me know, and have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, and bye-bye.